Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast, and today, whenever you're listening, we have a very special guest on the podcast. Romudeth himself, Tony Polanco. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Gabe. How are you doing?
I'm jazzed. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty happy you're on the show tonight because it was one of those things like, you know, I'm a Gamer Tag Radio fan. I like them. You know, within the past year I've been listening to them, and then this wild card that I've never heard of comes on the show and starts throwing out all these crazy takes. And at first I'm a little pissed, you know, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? You know what I mean? And then come to find out, you're a reputable professional in the games industry doing your thing, and your opinions are 1,000% valid. So it was fun to watch or to listen to you guys kind of going back and forth, and like you'd say something I'd agree with, they'd say something I disagreed with, and then it would flip-flop back and forth, and then sure enough, followed you on Twitter, and you know, you followed me back, so then I was like, I'm gonna DM this guy. He's not gonna respond because he has the little check next to his name. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you coming on the show, man. But before we get started, we have a little bit of news today, ladies and gentlemen. We have a little bit of things to talk about. We're mainly gonna focus on Tony at the end of the show. But he's going to we're going to have something special. We got some hands-on impressions about the Xbox Series X that we're going to throw in there at some point. So stay tuned to the end of that. But Tony, let the people know where you're from, where they can find you, what do you do? Who are you?
All right. Okay, who am I? Who is this dude, this random, crazy Dominican from New York who's just suddenly invaded your podcast?
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, I'm Tony Polanco, right? I've been in this industry. I started all the way back in 2010, just writing a blog with me and my friend. 2012, I joined an independent site, and that's when I started getting preview codes, going to E3, going to these events. And then at the end of 2015, I started writing for PC Mag and Geek.com, became a professional, and I've been a professional ever since. So that's pretty much what I do there. I cover, you know, all types of games. I mainly do reviews, previews, all that, anything that entails video gaming, you know, interviews. I've done it all, you know, been to E3, been a bunch of places across the country and all that. And then on, you know, like a personal thing, I also have a gaming podcast called Throwdown. That's been around since 2012. We did a reboot of it in 2014, and that iteration of it has been going strong. We always keep getting better and better and better. And yeah, you could, you know, like you said, that's my handle at Romudeth. It's always funny. It's like people still call me that even in real life. I'm like, bro, I'm Tony. You know, that's just my freaking handle, you know. But so yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Romudeth. That's ROMUDETH. And if you look at my bio, there's links to all my stuff. That's Laptop Mag. I also write for them. Laptop Mag, PC Mag, Tom's Guide, and Throwdown Show. You can find that it's at Throwdown Show, one word. That's our Twitter, and we got regular updates and all that stuff. Sometimes we do a lot of little nostalgia things. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on, you know. But it's all gaming, it's all fun, and like you said, sometimes your boy, you know, I do some hot takes. But that's the thing. I'm not trying to stir up any controversy. I just say this stuff, and dudes get mad and like, all right, man, you know, I take it how it is, you know.
Right.
But you know, I'm told I'm very entertaining. You know, I'm just like, yo, I'm just speaking my mind, bro. But that's how it is, man. But you know, I try to have a good time with it because it's like, bro, think about it like this, right? People wake up on Monday morning, they're all like, oh man, I gotta go to work. This sucks. Bro, I wake up on Monday, I'm like, bro, I get to write about video games today, man. This is awesome. And I've been feeling that way for years, you know. So no complaints, man. I'm living the dream, you know.
Dude, yeah, no, I totally, everything that you just said was like, God, I love this guy. You know what I mean? Like literally. Because I'm the same way. And, you know, it's a good thing you're on the Wannabe Critic podcast because we're known to throw around some hot, spicy takes. You know, people who listen to the show know I have kind of, you know, a lot of different projects I'm involved with. And, you know, you said something, the busier you stay and doing the thing that you love, the closer I feel like you get an idea of it in your head of like what you want for success, right? Because everyone has a different view of it. Everybody has a different opinion on it. And eventually, if you put the work in, you do it enough, you put the time in, that thing in your head of like, okay, yeah, this goal, got it. Now I want to do this thing, got it. You're always working towards that. You're always working towards the next level, you know, leveling up, so to speak. So kind of like what you're talking about, It's actually funny. You mentioned like, oh yeah, you started on a blog. That's exactly how I started doing stuff. Was just writing about my thoughts, and talking about games that I loved, and really, I didn't even realize that games could kind of deliver the message in the medium that they do until around like 2012. Because I'm a young guy, I'm a younger guy, and it's just so cool to hear that your background and kind of getting into this industry was a similar place, kind of where I've started, and it makes me happy to know that I have someone on my show that knows what the grind is like and has put in the work and is still willing to come on a Wannabes podcast. You know what I mean? And talk about games and do the thing, because it's all about the same stuff. It's all about video games.
Yeah, here's my philosophy, right? It's all about paying it forward, right? And this isn't the first time I've been on like a podcast or done a write up or whatever of somebody who's like, behind me. Right? I'm not saying that's a pejorative. I'm just being, honestly, because I'm like, okay, I'm here at this point, right? There are people who may be under me. How do I bring them up here, and I've seen your stuff. You're a really cool guy. I like your opinions. You're also very level headed. There's a lot of crazy people in this industry. You know what you're talking about. You're not insane. I'm like, you want me to be on the show? I'm like, yeah, why not? It's like, again, I want to give back because, and you said like, I understand the grind. Like, bro, the way I see it, I'm still grinding. Like the grind has not stopped whatsoever. Right. Yeah, I may get paid or whatever. I get flown to all these places, but the grind has not stopped. The same work ethic I had at the beginning is the same one I have now. Put out the best work possible and keep improving. That's what also keeps me going too. There are some instances where I may get a little bit jaded or whatever. I'll bring that up in a little bit, right? But I never, like, the thing that keeps me going is like, how do I get better at what I'm doing? Like every article is a chance to improve from what I had before, And again, just bringing it back, I just want to help guys like you out, because like we got to have new blood in this industry to keep going. Because I was in the same position as you, I was just a nobody. Nobody knew who I was, but now I'm where I'm at, and you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be where I'm at. But it's all about persistence, because you have to be ready. Think about it like this, right? I was doing a blog. I had absolutely no aspirations to do any of this stuff. I was like, I'm just doing it for fun. Then when one of my mentor, Torrance Davis, I always got to give him a shot. If it wasn't for Torrance Davis, nobody would knew who I was, right? He restarted it. He left the bitbag.com. He was running for years. I was a huge fan of theirs. The Warzone, which also their podcast, which inspired my podcast. He shut that site down. He started a new site. It was called STFU and Play. Yes, STFU means exactly what you think it means, but it's a family-friendly show, so I'm not going to repeat it here. And I was like, I'll try it. He's looking for writers. I sent him a bunch of my stuff. He actually got a little bit mad at me because he knew I was a fan. I was like, you didn't tell me you wrote, bro. I could have had you on the site years ago, right? So I was prepared, right? So I did independent writing for years and years and years. Then when my boy Jeffrey Wilson was also like, he's my editor / drinking buddy, right? When he was like, yo, PC Mag, Ziv Davis needs some writers. Do you want to do something? This is getting paid. I'm like, I had already been writing for years, so I was prepared, like no matter where you are, like even because don't get me wrong, like, you're seeing where I am right now, the success and all that. I had to grind, man. There were days too where I was just like, yo, what the hell am I doing here? Right. I'm pretty sure I could say hell, right? Like, what the hell am I doing? It's like, it's not going anywhere, but I kept going even through the darkest days, and I kept going, and I still have goals too, bro. Like, I'm not done yet. I'm still trying to get there, So that's the main reason I'm saying is like, for you guys out there listening, you too, it's like, keep doing what you're doing, even through the hardest days, man. Keep it going. People will recognize what you're doing and bring you up, because, and a lot of people will say, oh, you got lucky. No. Luck isn't going to get you anywhere. Maybe a little bit of it, but no, it's hard work that's going to get you somewhere. You got to be prepared for whatever opportunity comes your way. I was, and I'm sure you will be too. So just got to keep grinding, man, doing your thing.
Well, that's gospel coming out of your mouth, really, because I attack it. I have, I'm not trying to like toot the own horn. Well, it's part of housekeeping, anyways. Like, where you can find us, but I have a lot of different projects I'm involved in. We got the YouTube channel, we got the podcast. We got 4 podcasts, right? We're always starting new projects and trying to keep things consistent, and always trying to like say, okay, the goal should be, as you start something, to completion, efficiency, every time, right? And there's very rarely nights, in the past year or so since I got really serious doing this, there isn't nights where I'm not in bed, like getting to bed at like 1 a.m. is a good night. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, that's early. I'm usually up. I'm sure you can, attest to this. Like, you're up forever grinding and trying to make it the best you possibly know how to do it. And when you find a way to make something better, it's like, okay, I get this now. Now I need to do it like this from now on, and stuff like that. And being prepared, I love that, because Do I want Wannabe Critic Productions to like be its own thing and monetize it? Yes, 1000%. That's the goal. And it would be difficult for me to say like, okay, you know, like let's say IGN messages me tomorrow, right, and is like, hey, do you want to come be on a podcast and like, you know, like be one of our podcasts? You know, I'm just saying, like, for instance.
Yeah.
It would be really hard because there's a chance I wouldn't be able to do this anymore, which is what I really love, because I can say whatever I want. I can cover whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. But who's to say that making connections and collaborations and like guesting on shows and having guests like you on and stuff like that, I feel like that's the best way. It's like, oh my God, like, yeah, Gabe, Tony's a good guy. You know, maybe Gabe's a good guy. Yeah, this kid needs to get in front, like Hamilton said, right? Get this kid in front of a crowd, right? That's kind of what I'm always trying to do is like, hey, there's a million people out there that are better than me, like just talent-wise, but I guarantee you nobody brings the same level of whatever I bring or the same way that I bring it as me, because there's only one me. So I'm always like really big on just trying to keep that grind up, keep on trying to not sell myself, but just make good impressions, show that those impressions are worth something, and do the best that I possibly can do. And I appreciate you saying what you said about elevating, you know, people that are kind of on the grind and how you kind of remember what that was like to be on that grind. And I don't want to say too much about that because I want to hear your story. You know what I mean? Like I want to hear your story. So I appreciate you. That's a nice little teaser, an appetizer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Which, by the way, I love that hat. That's a dope hat. I've been looking.
Yeah, it's dope, right? I got this at PlayStation Experience one year. They were selling it. It's legit, man.
Dude, that's awesome. PSX, man. I wish I could have. I wish I knew what that was like whenever it was a thing, because I was just so ignorant at the time. But we're a few minutes in now at this point. So, ladies and gentlemen, once more, if you didn't know already, you're listening to the Wannabe Critic podcast. This is your weekly stop for diversity, your one-stop family-friendly-ish content shop. We do a lot of different things here. You know, we have anything from movie reviews to weekly news to, you know, the bi-weekly show where the entire cast is reviewing a movie and talking about the news. We just added Rex Tucker to the whole gang. You know, that was great. Our Firefly discussion, that was awesome. We do a lot of different things over here, but if you want to find out all the different things that we do, you can go to wannabecritic.com to get your hands on all the stuff that we do here. We have Game Club, you know, the podcast where we focus on video games, and we're always adding new projects. So make sure you go check that stuff out. And, you know, even buy a t-shirt or something like that. If you want to just, you know, say, hey, I listened to something that Wannabe Critic Productions puts out, it would mean the world. Also, I need to tell you all about Raise Energy. So remind me later to do that. Tony, that's your job.
Okay.
Don't let me forget. And then also, I need to talk about this dope hat that Pop Cult USA sent me. So don't let me forget that either, Tony. We need to, you know, get the sponsors in there as much as we can. You know what I mean? So it's good stuff. But as I said before, Tony, I am looking for some of those hot takes. I need some fellow hot takes. You ever like give a hot take and like you just go off? You know what I mean? Like go off and people are like, oh my God.
That's every day, man. That's every day for me, man. Look at my Twitter timeline, bro. Yes. That's every day. Yes. I say one thing, there's 1,000 replies and just people going nuts. So I'm used to that already, dude, you know? And I don't even have a SoundCloud, not anymore. You know? Oh man.
Sometimes you tweet stuff and it will unlock something in my brain and I'm like, okay, I liked that. This makes me think of that. Then I go tweet something of like a similar like heat, you know what I mean? And I'll put it out there and then what do you know? It gets clicks. So I'm just following your example, Tony. Your crispy hot takes. I love it. You love to see it. I wanted to talk just briefly about a couple of news stories. And I know you kind of talked a little bit about it today on Twitter, which today is Friday the 16th of October for those who are listening. The first write-up we have for today comes from GamesRadar.com, and it reads as this. It's pretty brief, so I'm just going to read the whole thing really fast, if you're all right with that. I want to get your thoughts on it. The title reads as so: Elder Scrolls 6 may be an Xbox exclusive, according to Phil Spencer, and this is from Alyssa Mercante. Mercante? I think that's how you say it. I don't know, but shout out to you for writing this. It says, Elder Scrolls 6 could be an Xbox Series /PC exclusive, says as Phil Spencer has all but confirmed. In an interview with Kotaku, Spencer is asked about Microsoft's recent acquisition of ZeniMax, the parent company of Bethesda and id Software. As we previously reported, the publishers of Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout, Doom, and many more high-profile franchises were joining Xbox Game Studios. Naturally, we all wondered if that meant that games like the highly anticipated Elder Scrolls 6 could be exclusive to Xbox Series X and PC. Is it possible to recoup a 7.5 billion investment if you don't sell Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation? Kotaku's Stephen Totillo asks Spencer, who quickly replies with, yes. Spencer elaborates after a pause, making sure to point out that the ZeniMax acquisition was not done to take games away from another player base like that. However, Spencer does say that he thinks about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we had, and we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass and our console base. I don't have to go ship those games on any other platform other than the platforms that we're supporting in order to kind of make the deal work for us, whatever that means. So while this isn't an outright confirmation that titles like Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5 won't release on PS5, it's as close as we're going to get to this one. The allure of making a couple of big budget, big sell titles Xbox Series X exclusives has clearly been on Phil Spencer's mind. Stay tuned as we'll update you accordingly with any news regarding Elder Scrolls 6 and other Bethesda and id Software titles accordingly. Sorry, my computer's kind of far away, so I kind of have a hard time seeing sometimes, even though I wear glasses. But Tony, what do you think about this? Elder Scrolls 6 coming to Xbox exclusively.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Microsoft spent $7.5 billion, right, to get ZeniMax Bethesda. You really think they did that to share their games with PlayStation? I highly doubt that. Whatever games are going to be coming out, like Deathloop or whatever, PlayStation, that's fine. Nothing's going to change that. But future games, Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, Starfield, that's going to be exclusive. I guarantee you that, And there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, they're going to be losing money by not having these games on PlayStation, right? And here's the way you got to see it, because a lot of people they're just seeing this through the lens of Xbox versus PlayStation, this console versus that console, right? So they're like, okay, you take away this console, you only have this one left, the one with the smaller user base, they're losing money. And that line of thinking is not wrong, right? But here's the part they're not considering, right? What is Xbox really trying to sell you? Are they trying to sell you a console? No, they're not trying to sell you a console. They're trying to sell you a service. Game Pass, right? What is Game Pass available on? Xbox, PC, and Android. Android, that's the important part right there, right? Because, yes, they will lose tens of millions of PlayStation customers, right? Yes, that will happen, right? But potentially, and this is all potential right now, they're banking on possibly bringing in hundreds of millions of PC and Android users to the Xbox ecosystem via Game Pass, right? So Microsoft's not even thinking about the console war, right? They're thinking about something else entirely. So when you look at it through that lens, it makes more sense. That's not to say it's going to work. It may not, because at the moment, as we're speaking, game streaming is not that big. Even Xbox Game Pass itself is not profitable. Microsoft has admitted themselves right now it is not making a profit, right? But the reason, just to bring it back a little bit, the reason Xbox Game Pass is not so profitable at the moment, and I'm just being completely honest, this is another one of these spicy takes that you guys love so much, right?
Watch out.
Xbox One has not made any game this generation that is a big crowd pleaser the way PlayStation and Nintendo brings them out, right? Yes, Xbox have had some good games this generation, right? They don't have any great games. That's the problem, right? So people look at Xbox Game Pass, they're like, what do I care? They don't have anything on there, right? With Bethesda games, that's a different story. People want Elder Scrolls. People want Fallout. These games have been proven. We don't know about Starfield. We'll see how that goes. But those two alone, right, could get millions and millions of people subscribing, hundreds of millions potentially, right? And I'm speaking about Project xCloud because I have tried that, right? And granted, I do have a very good connection. I live in New York City and all that. Everything's fine. It plays like butter, bro. Like, if you have a phone with an actual controller, because I don't recommend touch controls, I'm not down with that, you're going to be fine, or on a tablet. Like, that's what Microsoft is really thinking about. Like, have all these gamers on all these devices everywhere around the world, right? They could stand to lose 100 million PlayStation 5 users potentially if that's because I predict PlayStation 5 is probably going to do very well, probably 100 million, people. They'll fork those guys over in order to get 1 billion people even, so that's where they're coming at it from. So there's absolutely no reason for them to share their games. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, if things go differently, maybe, here's what I want to say. The only way you'll see PlayStation games on Xbox, and I've said this on Throwdown many times, right, is if Microsoft puts Game Pass on PlayStation, right? That may sound crazy, but what is Microsoft at the end of the day? They are a software company, right? They want to have their software on as many things as possible that can handle it. Why not have it on PlayStation? It could happen. You never know. But either way, even if it's on PlayStation via Game Pass, it's still Xbox. It's still an Xbox exclusive. So that's my take on it. Like a lot of people out there are saying, like, oh no, these games are definitely going to be coming to PlayStation, like natively on PlayStation for $70. Nope, that ain't happening. You just got to accept reality. You got to just take your emotions out of the equation and just see things objectively. Again, the companies are going to be spending $7.5 billion to share the game. It's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. No. And there's a lot to break down there, and I don't want to rebuttal because I agree with you. And I was very much in the camp of, I was yelling actually at Paris Lilly. I was listening to the GTR, and this was weeks ago, after the Bethesda news had broken. He was like, he was making some point, and I was like, I've seen Xbox Game Studios on my PlayStation already. Like, I've already played games. I've already played Minecraft Dungeons, Cuphead's on there. But then I got to thinking, it was within that podcast, the same podcast in which I was like yelling in my, whatever I was doing. I'm a farmer, as I said before, you know what I mean? So I chop wood or, wrangle the cattle. I was yelling at something. It was just a bad day. Nothing against Paris. I'm anxious to get him on the show at some point. It does. Whenever you think about how much money $7.5 billion is, Tony, let me ask you a question. You know the difference between a million seconds and a billion seconds?
No, really. You can't even calculate that,
Well, actually, I can. I got it for you because I did it.
By the way, just full disclosure, I'm a writer. I'm not good with math, so I'm like billion seconds, billion. I don't know.
Right, I'm the exact same way. Like, unless someone told me this, and if I checked for myself, like, I'm a talker. You know what I mean? Like, I always almost failed math almost every single year, but in like communication arts and language, I was like excelling at all times, which is probably why I love games so much. So a million seconds is about, and let's just say a million seconds. That's about 11 days, right?
Okay.
A billion seconds, that's about 31 years.
Wow.
That's the difference. So I want, after that podcast and after like thinking about it more and just thinking about like, what's the biggest argument that everyone always has about Xbox? Dude, they don't have any games. They don't have any good games, right? I feel like this acquisition, it really is a 1-2 punch, and I'm not, there's no new information here, like in terms of opinions, but I totally agree. After that showcase to show off what all their current studios have down the pipeline, eventually, maybe it's at the end of this generation, we get some of these stuff. I don't know, but Bethesda's been working on stuff for like ever. Like, they're constantly working on projects, so there's not really a risk there in buying it, and you're not even taking into account that. And someone mentioned this because I was having my spicy takes. You know what I mean? Someone replied to me and said, yeah, you know what? Sony really utilizes a lot of PlayStation's money. Like, PlayStation makes Sony a lot of money. And Xbox makes, Microsoft a lot of money. But at the end of the day, Microsoft is not reliant on Xbox to make them income. If you look at the income that they have, the extra cap space, the billions of dollars per week they have in cap space, it doesn't matter. Like, they can 1000% stand on their own 2 feet with this acquisition from Bethesda and ZeniMax, because at the end of the day, 5-6 years from now, we're going to be like, frick, the only way we can play Elder Scrolls or Fallout or any of this other stuff is Xbox. And honestly, I don't know if this has been said on other podcasts, I feel like they're kind of piggybacking. They don't want Xbox to be your main console. They just want to have that service, that ecosystem available to you in whatever way, shape, or form, almost like the same way we all had a Nintendo Wii in our house, whether we played it that much or not. So I think of it in those terms, like everybody had a Nintendo Wii. It's in 5-6 years, everybody is going to be able to have access to Xbox games one way or another, and it's all a matter of if you're willing to spend the however much Game Pass is going to cost at that time. Now, Phil Spencer is a very smart man, and this article makes a lot of sense to me, because at the end of the day, can you recoup $7.5 billion? If you do something like this, it's not going to be in a year or two. It's going to be probably by the end of the generation that you've actually made all that money back. What do you think on that?
Yeah, it's going to take $7.5 billion. It's going to take a while, like you said. So again, Microsoft they're playing the long game here. They're not looking for the quick injection of cash. They're looking at it the long term. And like you said, you're going to have Xbox Game Pass available on a multitude of devices. There's going to be TVs with the Xbox Game Pass. I guarantee you that. So that's where they're going for. They'll be like, okay, we're gonna recoup our money and make a profit eventually. This
Right.
they're not in it for they're in it for the long haul. And just quick thing about Sony and Microsoft, right? Yeah, you're right. Okay, if Microsoft got rid of the Xbox division, just hypothetical, right? Company would not be affected at all. The company would just keep on trucking, no, like nothing happened, right? If Sony were to get rid of PlayStation, the company's done. That's not hyperbole. The company is finished. That is the biggest money maker is PlayStation. Even Sony Studios, the movie studio, they don't even bring as much money as PlayStation. So that's why Sony is sticking with what has always worked for them, bringing out consoles, putting out games, right? Xbox or Microsoft, they could afford to do crazy Game Pass stuff because they have nothing to lose. They have the capital for it.
Yeah, they have
and one quick thing I want to bring up, because a lot of people always say, ever since it started, like, oh, what can Sony do to counter this? Sony doesn't have enough money to counter this at all. And people are bringing up some companies that made no sense. Like, oh, they need to buy Konami. Konami's on the level of Bethesda. Come on, man.
No.
Like, the only companies that Sony could buy, they can't, by the way, just throwing out there, they can't afford these companies. It would need to be a Ubisoft, an Activision, an EA to be on that level, and that's not happening at all.
No.
So what Sony needs to do in this case, focus on what has worked for them, which is quality AAA first party games. And right now they still have that. They still have that in the corner, and Microsoft is working towards that, but going back around, this Bethesda acquisition gives them that, because now when that new Fallout comes, when new Elder Scrolls comes, people are going to be like, ooh, I need an Xbox now, or I need Game Pass in general,
Right.
So
I need a way to play this game.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much my take on that. It's like, yeah, but like Microsoft, they're not in it for just the short term. They're in it for a long haul.
Yes, totally. And I think, it kind of is a two-edged sword, right? Because PlayStation, I'm very much, my friends are all like, oh, get a PC, like play with us. Like, I have Mac. I'm all Mac here. You know what I mean? I want my tools to be my tools, and I want my games to be separate from that. I don't want them to mix. I want to be able to turn my console on, because there's no better feeling than that for me. I don't want a PC. Like, I've never wanted a PC. I like to play on a console, and that's fine. You can play on whatever you want to play on. But it's interesting to me how PlayStation is so confident in their consoles and their games, and they should be. They make great games. They really do, and in my opinion, anyways, I would assume you think they make good games.
No, yeah.
Xbox buying all these studios and doing all this stuff is great for gamers. It's great because it makes PlayStation. Does PlayStation have to counter this necessarily? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Like, I don't think they have to do anything. And it's funny to me because I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. I would say the Xbox One X is probably, or I'm sorry, Series X, not One X. I have a One X right here. I would say the Xbox Series X, it blows the PlayStation out of the water in terms of power. We've already established that. It has more power, right? And I want to hear more about what you have to say about the Series X and your, impressions.
Yeah.
The PS5 is literally like the PS4 Pro 0.2, like V2 in a way. Like, I don't know, like I'm seeing all these games and it's like, yeah, it looks like more of the same with better loading times and more, opportunity to do kind of innovative things. That's all I wanted. I don't need you. I do not need Sony to go out and buy Take-Two or buy Ubisoft or do any of that. But you know who does? Because they don't have good games right now? Microsoft. Yeah. Because that's what's going to get people talking about them. Like, Microsoft has to be in their offices scratching their heads being like, where's the freaking hype? Like, we just put out this event and a controller video, like, gets way more traction from Sony. Like, their DualSense controller, like, just completely, you look at the numbers and there's not even a comparison as to which one ends up generating more hype. And I don't want to be, I'm not a Sony pony. I love video games. Like, I want to see Xbox get to the point with their entire vision as to what the Xbox 360 did. The Xbox 360 dominated that period of gaming. They did. Like, in terms of quality and the games that were put out, it was just it wasn't even a contest. And I'm happy that there is going to be more of a contest now, but I want to see them get back to that level of quality because there were so many good things there. And do I think it's going to happen anytime soon? No. I think it's going to take literally an entire generation for Microsoft software to get to that point again. And I wanted to add this too. Microsoft has also proven with all this ecosystem stuff that they're kind of, whether it's xCloud, Game Pass, whatever, they don't really care about their consoles. To me, the decisions they make with buying all this software, doing all this stuff, it goes to show me like, okay, well, if we sell a bunch of consoles, cool, but we don't need the consoles to sell. We need Game Pass to sell. We need, xCloud, like as you mentioned before, the Samsung stuff. And now even the iPhone stuff, like being able to access xCloud through a browser. I read something on that the other day. They're making it pretty evident as to where their focus is. And I feel like, it's making it even easier for me because even though I don't want to buy a PC, there is that thought that rolls in the back of my mind that's like, okay, I have another year left with my One X, like another year and a half. I couldn't get the pre-order. I couldn't get set up on the payment plan, in time or whatever. So I'm stuck with my One X for a while, which does a great job. I love it. Do I want to spend $500 on a Series X? Or do I want to spend like $1,000 and have the next 2 generations of Xbox games on, available to me? Like, it's just, it's an interesting question. So I guess, to kind of form this into a question, do you think Xbox kind of just lets even though, the Xbox is the thing, do you think they kind of let the hardware kind of fall to the wayside a little bit? Do you really think that I don't want to say could care less, but that's not their main focus?
Yeah, again, Microsoft is a software company first and foremost, Microsoft, right? So even though I don't think they're slacking too much on the hardware front, that isn't their main focus. Again, they're not trying to sell you consoles, even though they obviously do want you to buy consoles, but this generation is going to be all about Game Pass. You already see it in their advertisement, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass all day. So that's where they're going for. But they're not slacking on the hardware. And I will say this, though, because my first Xbox that I got was the Xbox One, right? I never owned an Xbox back in the day. I was always a PlayStation guy, right? But when I started working in the industry, I'm like, yeah, I got money now. I'm buying everything. I got myself a gaming PC, got myself an Xbox. And for one thing, the main thing I noticed when I started playing the Xbox One, it was like, oh, gaming is like a secondary function of this thing. Like I noticed the multimedia stuff was way better. It was snappier than actually running games, but it made sense. Remember when they originally revealed it was all, TV, sports, all that other stuff. Like you could tell, like that first presentation. By the way, a lot of people say, "Oh, that E3." No, that presentation was in May. It was May 2013. It was all focused on all this multimedia stuff, all these like other things besides games. They had a little bit of games in there. And when I bought the system, I'm like, this is like a console that just so happens to play games, but all the other stuff I was doing, DVDs, Blu-rays, all that was play better. But when I, played with the Xbox Series X, I'm like, oh, this is a gaming console. There's nothing else. This is just a gaming console that maybe you could play some other stuff too. So Microsoft is definitely more focused on that. But at the same time, even though they are more focused on the hardware this time around, like you said, the Xbox Series X is more powerful on paper at the moment. We need to see those comparisons. Digital Foundry, I definitely want to see those videos because some people are saying, oh, the Xbox is like vastly superior. Well, let's see it in action. The PS3 was more powerful than the 360. We saw how that went down. So power doesn't really equate to too much if you don't know how to utilize it. Think about it. Would beat the Xbox this generation? PlayStation and Switch. Switch is the weakest console, but it has games. But anyway, just going back around, that's where Microsoft is at least putting some effort into another software, some games, and hopefully it'll pay dividends. Hopefully it won't take an entire generation. Hopefully by the middle of the generation, Xbox will finally, get its act together where people are going to be looking at it. It's like, yo, these games are just as good as PlayStation and Nintendo's. Let me jump on Xbox, so hopefully that'll happen because, like you said, 360, they were top of the food chain for a while. PlayStation 3 eventually overtook it and stuff in terms of like games, console sales and quality of games. But that first half of the 360 era, even with the Red Ring of Death dominating in America, so hopefully they could capture some of that again.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And yeah, that I want to see Xbox, whatever they're trying to do, I want them success because that's where I fell in love with what gaming is today. That's where it was. It wasn't on PS3, wasn't on anything else. And, it was just like the next step. So I hope it'll be interesting to see what happens. So anyways, before we get into our next story, I've been talking for a little bit and I need to switch my battery out in my camera. So what do you say we take just a brief break and we'll get back to the next one?
Cool.
Okay, so getting into the next news story, you're just such an interesting person. We were talking for so long and, just spending so much time on stuff, and I love it. It's the way to go. But we're going to our second news story for the day. What time is it? Okay, we're good. We're good on time. The next story comes from IGN, and this will probably be a shorter one. Again, it's a shorter article, so I'll probably just end up reading the whole thing. But it's regarding Marvel's Avengers, and it says Marvel's Avengers DLC and next gen versions delayed. This write-up comes from Matt Purslow. I think that's how you say your name. It reads as such. Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics have delayed the next major updates for Marvel's Avengers, pushing the next-gen versions into next year and delaying the addition of the game's first DLC character, Kate Bishop. In a post on the Avengers blog, Crystal Dynamics studio head Scott Amos apologized for the slight delay to the Kate Bishop DLC, but explained that it is due to ensuring new content is given the time for extensive internal testing. With this in mind, we've decided to push Kate Bishop's operation launch back a bit, out of October, said Amos. But no new date was given for this new character. Additionally, Amos explained that next-gen updates are being pushed back. We've also made the decision to shift our PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S launch, and X, to next year to ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience showcasing all that this game is meant to be, he said. While a next-gen version with optimized upgrades won't arrive for a while, Amos does note that playing the current-gen versions on PS5 or Xbox Series consoles will benefit from improved frame rates and faster loading times. These are issues that Avengers on current gens certainly suffer with, so there should be some noticeable benefit. Amos also confirmed that existing saves will transfer to next-gen consoles. In addition to detailing the delays, Amos also apologizes for the troubles Avengers has suffered in its first months. Marvel's Avengers launch was not without turbulence, and we recognize that a number of issues detracted from your enjoyment of the game, he said. This does not align with Crystal Dynamics' value of craftsmanship, and for that we sincerely apologize. And then the article goes on that players will be receiving a bunch of free content, like a bunch of free currency within the game. And then it concludes and says, while the most anticipated content has been delayed, Amos assures players that performance and stability, multiplayer matchmaking, rewards, and late-game content is all being worked on at the studio. This includes a much-requested ping system and the ability to replay the campaign with your high-level gear. So, Tony, are you an Avengers fan? Have you played it? What do you think? What's your take from this article?
Yeah, I reviewed. Okay, got to go back. So I previewed the game first back at New York Comic Con. This is before COVID, obviously. We were still able to actually live our lives. So I previewed it back in New York Comic Con. At the time, I was just like, I don't know about this game. I'm a huge fan of Avengers, love comic books and all that, but the game just felt very generic to me, when they threw the whole thing about how it's like games as a service type of game, like, it was funny. It's like a whole room of journalists. We all like collectively groaned like, so I was like, but I'll give the game a chance. Came out, a year later, basically. I reviewed it. Yeah, it's very generic. It's just a bland, generic superhero game, like I beat the game, the campaign. I didn't even bother with the extra stuff. I'm like, I'm done here. It's kind of boring. This may be okay. This is just my opinion right now. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or whatever. When I first saw this story, it just said my mind just said, yo, if this game had actually been a success, because it's not a success right now, I doubt any of that stuff would have been delayed. I think the link is like nobody's buying the game right now, so maybe they're reassessing things, hoping maybe things will pick up later on. Who knows? But that's the first thing. I could be wrong about that. It's just my gut instinct was like, the reason we're getting these delays is because nobody really cares about this game at the moment. If they put out the Kate Bishop DLC, is anybody going to want it? I remember when the game first came out, there was a lot of talk about it, and then just dropped off. The biggest thing this game had going for it was the Spider-Man DLC, because it caused some controversy. It's funny, we haven't even heard about that. Very interesting. Yeah. But yeah, again, the game is just because it's. I'm trying to be nice about this, right? But it's like it's just beat 'em up Destiny, beat 'em up Division. I'm like, me personally, I'm tired of that stuff. It's like just constant grinding for like just a little bit better loot. It's like boring, and like, even though the story for the game was just okay, there was really nothing special. It wasn't like PS4 Spider-Man, which was incredible,
right.
Amazing, I should say. But yeah, no, this didn't hit right, so I'm not surprised this happened. They're probably just reassessing things behind the scenes, seeing if interest maybe picks up with the new consoles. Maybe they're hoping like, hey, people have the new consoles now. They're gonna pick up Avengers now. Maybe that'll help, but I don't know, man. The game, I don't know, because I've been trying to think how could they have fixed it. I honestly don't know. Maybe getting it away from the whole games as a service angle, because half the game feels like it's just a tutorial for the MP mode. Like, really? Like we're having capture the flag missions during the campaign. I'm like, what is this? Or like hold your ground or territory. You know what I'm talking about. So he has those stuff.
Right.
Like, come on, guys. What is this? There's some cool moments. Don't get me wrong, but overall, it just felt very, just a generic is like the only word I could really that best describes this game.
Yeah. No, and you're saying everything that I basically agree with you. And I've been doing this thing of, okay, if I want to be taken seriously, I'm gonna have to spend some money because I'm not a journalist. I'm not. I'm a nobody. I'm a wannabe. See the sign?
Yeah.
So I got to play these games because I'm telling people this looks like crap. I told people 6 months ago, and they were the first trailer come out. I'm like, that looks like crap. That looks absolutely bland as all get out, and I'm not down for it. People are like, oh, it'll be great. You can play as such and such. I put my money where my mouth is, right? I bought the game, put it in, and was surprised. I was like, this is better than I thought it was going to be. There's some good animation here. Like you said, it's like beat 'em up Destiny, which I like Destiny. That's great. I am kind of sick of the games as a service format as a whole, but I started to kind of see this diamond in the rough, right? And then I experienced some game crashing bugs. Horrible, horrible bugs. I'm like, you realize what people think of the average, not even us as gamers and like people who are invested in the industry. Average people are going to pick up this game, and if they experience game crashing bugs like what I experienced, it's going to be bad. Like their experience, their perception of Avengers, like they're gonna say exactly what I've been saying. You made a game, a generic game, like what you said, and then you slapped Avengers on it, is what you did. That's what you did. And to me, as someone who really fell in love with the movies, which really added to me as a comic fan, like going back and be like, oh, maybe these comics have some stories, that need to be, you know what I mean? And start like finding this love of comics. It's at the end of the day right now, I'm just kind of like, how dare you? Like, you don't release something that's not finished. So at the end of the day, from this article for me, I'm like, good. Do not put anything else out with this game. Fix what you got. Give the players more content. Don't make them play the same 5 missions over and over and over again to get XP and grind their loot and do their stuff. Give them enough, because that's the difference. If they released this and it had some bugs and whatever, but there was a plethora of things to do and a lot there, and it was like, oh, well, yeah, I got kicked from this game, or, I experienced this thing, or yada, 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 we'd be having a completely different conversation. But is it there? No, it's not. It's a cash grab. It is a disgrace. I'm sorry. Right now at this point in time, and I've spent the money on it, ladies and gentlemen, I paid the price tag. It's a disgrace. Finish your freaking game. How hard is it? That's all I'm saying. So at the end of the day, I've been waiting for this show to say something about Avengers, and thank God that this news dropped at this amount of time, because you, Tony Polanco, the senior of hot takes here, can appreciate my frustration, because you were there. You reviewed it professionally and did your thing. So I just want to see the game get better. I do think it reminds me of whenever Vanilla Destiny launched, and we were like, oh my God, this is great. But it has way more problems than Vanilla Destiny ever did, and a lack of content there. Yeah.
So you're right about that, because at least with Vanilla Destiny, you were hooked on it for a while. I'm talking for myself. I was on it for a month straight until I realized, like, oh, I'm just grinding for the same thing. But because here's the thing about Destiny, right? And the Division as well, right? The core gameplay is very satisfying. Like the shooting mechanics, fantastic. The core gameplay Avengers is just a standard beat 'em up game, man. There's nothing there. This game, going back to me being a professional, this game is the epitome of I'm only playing this game so I could review it and get my money. Because I didn't really enjoy it. I'm like, let me just get through this as fast as possible so I can get to something more interesting, because this is ridiculous.
Well, my thing was, I want to buy this game so that people will take me seriously. Because you hear, on the playground, the kid's always talking crap about such and such, but he'll never do anything. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm going to beat you up, but he never does it. I spent the money. I did the thing. I have the game. And I will say this, though. This is the one saving grace for this game. For me. I like Kamala Khan enough. Yeah. I like her enough and what she's doing, and I'm a sucker for Troy Baker, and this is the best Hulk has ever felt in a video game, hands down. I like those things enough to say, okay, I'm on PlayStation, bring me Spider-Man. Finish your freaking game. Let's see what we got. Because if it's a Destiny 1 to Destiny Taken King situation, where it's like, holy crap, why are we not playing this game? Then, yeah, I want to be around for that. I want to talk about that. So it's worth it enough to me to keep it, to at least see what happens. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, I traded in a bunch of stuff to get the game. So at the end of the day, if I lose money on it, whatever. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm happy to see that they're saying, yeah, we're delaying our stuff. And I totally agree with you. Even if this game was having the problems it's still having, but people were raving about it and talking about how great it is, yeah, they'd be like, oh, well, we're good. Yeah, we can take our time, whatever. But now, since there's a big hubbub, everybody's like, frick, we made an Avengers game, and it's not making any money, and people aren't playing it. And, like, the result that we were expecting, the result we were hoping for isn't there. So, yeah. I'm excited to see this stuff pushed back. I'm excited. I'll play on my PS4 Pro because I bought the disc. So it's whatever. Crystal Dynamics, finish your game, and then we'll play it. So any final thoughts on that, Tony? I was just kind of feel like I gave you therapy just then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you really let your feelings out. Now I don't have anything more to say about the game. I don't care enough about it. I'm done with it. I'm done with it, man.
Good. I love to hear it. Love to hear it. So you won't be getting on that sweet Spider-Man content whenever it comes out?
Don't care.
Okay. Well, you love to see it. I love honesty.
Yeah,
okay, that's enough news for now. Let's transition to, the main event, so to speak, the main topic, the main segment. And Tony, just for reference, I went off on that article. I went off about that game. I would have done that with any guest. I would have done that with anybody. But you know what? Like, you're like watching me, you're probably thinking to yourself like, God, this guy has some problems. You know what I mean? No.
Nah, you're good, man. Let it out. That's what gaming is about. Passion. By the way, do you need to pimp your stuff now or later?
That's exactly what I was going to do. So before we get into you, Tony, I just wanted to say a quick shout out to popcultusa.com. They took a chance on me. I sent them a thing. I said, I love your merchandise. I love your stuff. I love video games, music, and beer. It's like we were meant for each other. So, of course, they sent me this dope. They sent me a new hat. I have a natural light hat in the other room, but they sent me this dope Miller High Life hat, and it's all officially licensed merch. So I don't know what they had to do to get it, but all I know is they sent it to me, and I asked for specific stuff and got it. And, I'm going to be showcasing that more on my Instagram and stuff, but go check that out. You can get a discount if you use my personal code _wannabecritic, and you can get 30% off your entire order. That's quite a lot, in my opinion. 30% off, like, that's pretty good. Their stuff is pretty cheap. So load up, get yourself 30% off, and then more recently, today, as of October 16th, 2020, the Wannabe Critic and Wannabe Critic Productions is an official brand ambassador for Raise Energy. I was shocked about this one. I made a video about it. I was like, hey, Raise, I was going to, they say shoot your shot, right? Kind of like with you, Tony. I sent you a DM and I was like, whatever. He's not going to respond. You did. Here we are now today. I have no problem shooting my shot because I don't get embarrassed. It's really hard to embarrass the Wannabe Critic. But yeah, you can go to Raise Energy. Actually, it's repsports.com, so that's REPP sports.com, and you can get yourself 15% off an order of Raise Energy. I gotta say, I'm a big energy drink person, but I'm not like, I don't want chemicals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want too many chemicals. I know they're there in anything you drink, but, I was on the Red Bull for a long time, then I switched to sugar-free Red Bull. I've done the Bang, I've done the Reign, I've done the G Fuel, I've done it all. I've gotta say, Raise Energy is by far the best tasting carbonated energy drink I've ever had. So if that's not good enough for you, the listener, to want to go buy it, I don't know what else to do, but you can go there to repsports.com, REPP sports.com, use my personal code, _wannabecritic. You'll get 15% off your entire order. So there you go. I need to be able to wrangle them cattle, you know what I mean? And also do this podcast and like do all the stuff that I do. I gotta be hyped, son. Like I gotta be freaking hyped all the time. And I can't do that without energy. So that's exactly what Raise provides for me. So Tony, that's your obligation now. You got to go buy at least a couple of cans to support.
By the way, I never even heard of them until tonight. I'm like, that's cool, man. So I'll check them out. Miller, I'm very familiar with, obviously. You know,
awesome. I love to see it. You know, whenever Beer Bros reprises, because that's a little series I've done. You know, we put on the YouTube and the podcast. It was Beer Bros.
Nice.
Whenever that reprises, we might have to have you on for that one. If you're willing, you know what I mean? If you're willing to put up with the wannabe again, you know what I mean? Like, so anyways, but thank you for reminding me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you, the listener, for listening to that ad spot. And thank you to Raise and Pop Cult once more for, you know, taking a chance on us. We're hungry. We're hungry for success over here, and we don't stop. We do not stop. The grind does not stop. We are committed.
That's right.
And we are always committed to lifting those up who have helped us along the way. So, Tony, let's shift gears. Let's go to you, my friend, my new friend, I hope.
Yes.
Tony, you know, I lived in New York for a while. I lived in upstate New York.
Okay. That's not really New York, by the way, but, you know, we'll leave that aside. We don't really count those people as New Yorkers. You know?
You know, and when, you know, that's one of those things, too. Like, whenever I first went to New York, my parents were like, oh, yeah, let's go to this city. And we were there for a week. And, like, after 3 days, I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, I hate it here. You know what I mean? But every once in a while, like, every couple of years, my brother-in-law, my co-host, lives in New York as well, but not in the city, you know, and stuff like that. So I would agree with you. After seeing both sides of it, I'm like, yeah, there's like New York, and then there's like not New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but kind of
pretty much.
Yeah. So, but I love to be able to have someone on who's in the city and dealing with it. Tony, this is the opportunity I want to give you. You kind of told us about your background as in terms of, you know, what you've done professionally, where you started and stuff like that. I understand, you know, that you have been presented with an interesting set of circumstances within your life, you know, and I kind of want to hear the whole story. Tell us the story of Tony Polanco, because honestly, you know, there was a guy that tweeted out something the other day that I noticed, and I felt like a horrible person because I did not realize at the time what he was even saying, and I was like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whenever he said something about you not being able to walk or something, made some sort of like really mean comment about that.
Yeah, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, and I did not even know. I never noticed that had been a thing. So I want to know the entire story of Tony Polanco, and, you know, feel free, you can share any this is a safe space here on the Wannabe Critic podcast. So let her rip. I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Yeah. All right, so I was born in Dominican Republic in 1980, right? And that time, it started in the late 70s. There was a huge polio epidemic going on, right? So obviously all the kids and stuff that were being born had to get vaccines and stuff, right? So I was born in 1980. I had a twin brother, right? We went to get vaccinated, and like a week later, we both started getting the fever, right? You know, so, you know, unfortunately, my twin brother died, right? We were 6 months old. You know, I can still feel my legs, you know, all that. Everything down there works, ladies, you know. But you know, it's just I can't move them like I can my arms and stuff, right? So, and this is going to sound really weird. Since that happened to me at such a young age, I don't know another type of life. Like, there are people that I know that, you know, being able to walk or whatever, and, you know, they lose their legs and they're really like depressed because they missed it. To me, I'm like, this is just the way I am, you know. And then just living in Dominican Republic, things were messed up down there, you know. So I already kind of grew up like being hard, you know what I'm saying? And just like you know, because you live in a farm, right? I used to visit my grandfather's farm and stuff, you know. Like, if I wanted something to eat, we would kill it, you know, like chicken, okay, you know, grab by the neck, twist it around, you know. You want to get cows, like, let's go butcher this thing, you know. So I was, even now I'm used to it. Like, I know some people that are like squeamish. I'm like, no, I kind of like knowing that what I'm eating used to be alive, you know, because that kind of gives me more appreciation for it. It's like, that thing died so I could live, right? But the whole thing with the wheelchair never really bugged me, you know. Like, I have friends that have, you know, handicapped too, and they're kind of bitter about it. Understandably, I get it, you know. But it's funny because people always ask me, like, hey, do you want, like, would you ever want the use of legs? I'm like, no, I just want a wheelchair that could float upstairs like Xavier's chair, you know, like that. That's how I'm thinking about it, you know, because it's just part of my identity. But at the same time, it's not really who I am. Like you said, you didn't even know. Most people don't even notice because I don't really bring it up. But obviously, if you bring it up, I'm going to say it.
Right.
And one of the cool things about being in this industry is, think about it. I didn't get where I am right now because of the chair. Most people don't even know about it. Right. It's just because of my hard work. So this is one of the places where I could be who I am, and the disability isn't a liability. It doesn't hold me back at all whatsoever. I probably should capitalize on it more. I haven't done that because, again, I'm not trying to be that guy. But at the same time, dude, I could count the amount of handicapped journalists in this industry on a single hand and still have fingers left over. Like, that's how serious it is. Like, I'm not. This is not boasting. Guys that are doing what I'm doing, I know 2 guys. There's me and Paul Amadeus Lane from the Tech Zone. That's it. Like, I'm talking about for Americans. There's more Europeans and stuff, and there are other people that are like in wheelchairs or walkers or whatever that are like maybe on it doing some different things. But I'm talking about as a grinding gaming journalist, I'm it. That's it. But yeah, it's never really stopped me. It's really more other people's problems than it is mine. Like, yo, I'm good with myself, bro. If you got a problem with it, too bad. And again, hasn't stopped me. I'm doing what I do. Hasn't really stopped me romantically. If you guys were wondering about that, everything I do, everything's been fine. And it's also my attitude. You can see it right now. It's like, yo, I don't care, man. I'm just doing what I got to do. Because that's just the way it is. I really like. I'm not gonna try to get too deep into it. I don't like that whole victimhood stuff. Like,
right,
bro. No.
Yes.
No one's stopping you but yourself. Right. Like, no, I could have easily gone down that road, bro. Like, where like I would let this defeat me. Nah, forget that. So going back to what you said before. So when you got idiots like this on Twitter, right? For you guys who don't know, so 2 weeks ago exactly, I went to check out the Xbox Series X. That was not my Series X. That was Danny Pena's, Kramer Tag Radio's, his Xbox Series X, and he was like, Tony, I got the Series X. You need to come check this out. We got to film it. We got to put it on Throwdown, my podcast, right? So I posted a picture of myself, right? Everybody's like, yo, that's dope. That's dope. Everybody's going crazy. There's one dude. There's one guy that only has it's a burner kind of guy, has like 8 followers, only 1 tweet directed at me. He's like, oh, you got a Series X, but at least I could walk. Who's the real winner, right? And I was just like, and this is gonna sound messed up. I'm like, yo, I gotta give this guy respect for being that bold. Like, bro, do you see how many followers I got? They're gonna tear you apart, which they did. Right. So I quote tweeted him. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like that's all I saw. Like, that's nice. The internet's gonna internet.
Yes.
And I should say this. I got a call from Paris Lilly that night. Yo, I never heard Paris curse that much in my life. He was livid, but I was just like, whatever, man. I've heard worse. Trust me. I've heard a lot worse directed at me. Like, people like, yo, man, if I was in your position, I would kill myself. Crazy stuff like that. I'm like, wow. Whoa, damn, okay,
right.
Or yeah, one of the craziest ones, bro, is where I'm just telling stories. The craziest one was this dude I met in the street, homeless guy, right? And he was like, yo, man, if I was you, I wouldn't leave my house. I'd be embarrassed. Can you give me $5? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now, bro? You're insulting me. You asked me for money. And then I told him, like, bro, you got working legs. Why don't you get off your butt and do something? I got my legs and I'm doing my thing, man. Get out of here with that noise, bro.
Well, and dude, I just got to say too, and I don't mean to cut you off. And if you, obviously, I want to hear more about like your roots in gaming and stuff like that. But whenever I learned that literally a week ago, it was like, I'm an emotional guy. And whenever I saw that, I was kind of like, holy crap. I have never, this guy has some of the boldest takes. He just puts his stuff out there. Like, that's who he is. And I admire that and respect that so much because that's how I am. And you have this thing and it's just like, dude, that's all I've known, and that's what it is. And it's kind of interesting, I, for religious purposes, I actually don't celebrate any holidays. So, like, it's the same type of deal. Like, whenever people tell me, like, oh, you've always missed out on birthdays and Christmas and all this other stuff, I'm like, I've never done it, so I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? And just hearing you kind of talk about that exact same thing of you only know the life that you know, but you still find a way to do the stuff that you love and, like, you're pursuing your dream and doing all these things. It just, like, made me super duper happy because I was like, this guy is for real. Whenever I say emotional, I wasn't sad. It just, like, really elevated my sense of, like, respect for you because I was like, this guy has never alluded to this ever. And I would never have known. You can see it in your profile picture a little bit,
Yeah.
But I would have never known because in the profile picture, it just looks like you're sitting down, like looking like a boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whenever you posted with that Xbox Series X, it was the same thing. I was like, that dude's a freaking boss. Like, look at him go. Look at, freaking sweet. So I just really admire you for that. Never, because it'd be so easy. I would say probably 50-50. People would be like, oh, poor me. Like, oh my God, give me money and yada, yada, yada. But you're like, I'm going to do my thing because I'm happy and content with my lifestyle. And I'm not going to let this thing hold me back. And I love that. So, just to kind of transition a little bit, talk about kind of your roots in gaming. Like, where did 1980? You're like from the Stone Age. It's fine. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
we have people.
Know,
we have dinosaurs on every once in a while. You know what I mean? But to kind of talk about your roots in gaming. Like, why even get into gaming?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, so again, I was born in the Dominican Republic, right? I didn't know what a video game was until I came to America in 1987. I was 7 years old at the time, right? And maybe a year later, right, I was at it was my dad's friend's bodega, one of his drinking buddies, right? I go in there and there's this large box. I'm trying to describe it the way I would as a kid, right? Large box with a TV on it and buttons and little characters running around. Like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's a game. My dad's friend was like, that's a game. I'm like, what do you mean game? What are you talking about? Gives me a bunch of quarters. Like, yo, go play. I'm like, what are you giving me money for? What's going on here? It's like, listen, there's a little red slash there, 25 cents. You stick those quarters in, you hit start, right? I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I go there. It's an arcade cabinet for you guys who don't know. Go to arcade cabinet. I see these little characters running around and stuff. Pop in my quarters. And yo, it was weird, dude, because like I don't know. Again, this is my first time I'm playing a game. I instantly knew what I was doing. Like, like I pop in the quarters, hit start, music starts, and I'm like, okay, this stick moves the characters, this attacks, this jumps, right? And I start playing the first game I ever played in my life, Golden Axe, Sega's Golden Axe, right? And I instantly knew, and something just grabbed me. I'm like, oh my God, like this is how is this possible? And then later on I learned that some of my cousins had a Nintendo Entertainment System. My mom eventually bought me a Game Boy, eventually my own Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all that other stuff, big time gamer my entire life, but the funny thing is it never even crossed my mind to make it a career at all. As a matter of fact, being a writer didn't even cross my mind either. I wanted to be it's funny because I see your guitar back there. I'm like, I wanted to be a rock star. That's what I wanted to do, and I actually do have my own guitar back there. We got to talk about that eventually. But it's like, yo, so around 1990, right? Actually before that, my friend Emilio, who's also my co-host on Throwdown, I've been friends with this guy since we're both 40 years old. And we've been friends since we were 13, right? And for a long time, starting in the mid 2000s, when the internet really, really started going, even though it's been around since the 90s, he was like, "Yo, Tony, why don't you do a video game blog? You play a lot of games and you beat them really fast." And at that point, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to be one of these dummies on the internet just spouting his opinion, which is funny. Look at my career now. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. He kept insisting, but I never relented. I could be pretty hard at it. And then at the end of 2010, this was after New York Comic Con or near New York Comic Con. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna start my own gaming blog." And I'm like, two guys doing it. I'm not gonna feel that stupid. Why not? And as we were trying to come up with the website and stuff, Dual Shockers, which was a site I was a huge fan of back then, which ironically enough I ended up writing for a number of years, for a number of months. They opened up a forum and they were like, "Hey, if you want to submit fan reviews, submit something." I'm like, sure, let me try this. So I've been reading game reviews forever. EGM, Game Fan, Game Informer, like all that stuff. Nintendo Power. I've been reading this stuff for ages, right? So I was like, let me write it in the style of these guys. So I wrote, it was a review for Enslaved Odyssey to the West for the PS3. Loved that game, Ninja Theory, and that was my first published game review. And then literally the week after New York Comic Con 2010, which is also the same year where I met Hip Hop Gamer, who's still a really good friend of mine. He helped me get to where I am right now. Very eccentric fella, but he's a great guy. We had him on the podcast recently, and I started writing more game reviews. I'm like, hey, I kind of like this. This is kind of cool. The site, we called it Cool Stuff the blog, because it was everything, because we love movies, comics, all that stuff, so I just kept that going, and I was like, hey, this is kind of cool, but I never, again, didn't think about making it a career, right? It's just like, I'm just doing this for fun. It wasn't until I got on to SCFU and Play, I'm like, I may be able to do something about this, and, testament to my, my willingness to just keep at it, and my hard headedness. It took me 3.5 years to become a professional from that point. I know guys that have been doing this 20 years are still not professional, but again, once I got there, I was determined, like, yo, this is what I'm going to do in my life. I've always been a good writer. I've always loved video games. Let's combine it all together. And it's obviously working out, because I just keep going up and up and up. But even with this whole Rona nonsense going on, I'm still getting opportunities, still elevating myself, So it's just kind of cool how something I didn't even consider, because there's a lot of writers that I know, they're like, it's been their lifelong passion to be a writer. I was just like, I just kind of stumbled into this thing, and it works. I'm just riding the wave, not to short sell myself, because obviously I get paid for a reason. I'm a good writer, just being honest here. But it's like, it's kind of funny how like life just took me on this little journey. But going back around, the whole thing with the wheelchair never stopped me at all, man. That's not a consideration, man. Everybody has their own struggle they got to deal with. Mine's is just visible,
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's just how it is, man. And it hasn't opened opportunities yet. I could probably go harder on it. I have covered things like the Xbox adaptive controller or whatever, but again, that's just something that's a condition, but it's not who I am. Like you said, you didn't even know. Most people don't know. And it's not that I'm hiding. It's just like, it doesn't really come up. It's like, because if you go to me, hey, you're in a wheelchair, I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, that's like saying, Tony, you got a mustache. Like, yeah, I do. It's like, whatever. It's just part of me or whatever, But yeah, that's how I got into games. Love games, obviously. It's different now than it was back in the day, because now I have to play games for work, something like I have to just run through games. Like, if you guys see my trophy count, like I have like 70 platinum trophies, right? Most of those I got before I started writing in the games industry, because I had time to play games and really just crush them. Now it's like a conveyor belt sometimes, I got to just run through them, but again, I'm just having a great time, man. There are days that are up and downs, obviously, because some games I got to play, I'm like, oh, I don't want to play this game. This game sucks. But you got to do it, But then I balance this with like going to all these places. Obviously, I'm not doing that now because of the Rona, but dude, even this year, bro, I went to San Francisco, LA, New Orleans, doing my thing,
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The truncated version of it.
Yeah, no, and that's great. That was very, very eloquently put, very, very real too. That's what I appreciate about you, because, for listeners, Tony Polanco, host of Throwdown show, right? That is a not safe for work podcast. All right.
No, it's not. That is not. We had that disclaimer right up there for a reason.
And I appreciate that you do that, because it's like, listen, this isn't for kids. If you're offended by such and such, whatever. And, I do think that there is a moral thing of, okay, if I'm not going to let myself do this thing, then maybe if I am offended by X, Y, and Z, then I shouldn't do it, because it makes me feel bad or whatever. I enjoy your show, because you guys do a lot of good stuff. Do you let stuff rip? Yeah, sometimes, but it's just like, at this point in time, I'm not going to personally do it, but I'm not going to judge anyone else for doing anything. And I love how honest you are in every aspect of that, and you're upfront about it. That's great.
Yeah, this man. I'm gonna say this real quick, just not to cut you off. There's a lot of fake people in this industry, man. I'm not one of them. This is a testament to how real I am, right? The first E3 I went to was 2013. You know what the biggest comment I got from people was? Holy crap, you act the same in real life as you do on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, why would I act any different? I don't have time to freaking put on a facade, bro.
I don't have time. Nonsense. I do not have time to be a different person for someone else. And that's the thing is, it's one of those things for me. There's a level of integrity there too, because I'm the same way. It's like, if you ask me like, oh, Gabe, you got to get on Throwdown. And I've asked you, well, can you keep it family friendly for an episode? And you're like, nah, I can't do that. I'd be like, well, I can't come on then, because I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's integrity. That's just what it is, and would I be shorting myself an opportunity? Probably. But would I care in the long run? No, because I need to do what's best for me. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what you're doing. And I love to see that. I love to talk with people that are doing a similar, that exact same thing. And, I kind of wanted to get a little bit of your process. You're not strapped for time, are you?
Let me see, because I got to do a stream soon. So I could do another 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Really fast.
Yeah.
So, and you'll have to give like just a brief, like Xbox Series X impressions.
Yeah.
you know, as someone who wants to be in the industry and wants to just, I love reviewing things, love talking about things, right? Whenever you put on that lens of, okay, I'm reviewing this thing, do you think about it personally, or do you try and put yourself in the position of the people that are going to be purchasing the game, going to be consuming the game?
That's interesting, because usually I go in it, it's like, this is Tony's review of it. I don't really think too much about it, in that regard. Maybe I should, I don't know, but it's worked for me. It's like whenever I review a product, I'm not really thinking too much of like, I mean, there is a little bit of that. It's like, what will you guys think? Because obviously my position may be a little different or whatever, but generally it's just like, okay, here's the product, here's my take on it, take it how you will, my opinion on it. So I don't really think about it too much, but at the same time I was in your position too, where I had to buy my games, buy my consoles and all that and review those, but the process hasn't really changed.
Okay, right on. That's kind of how I look at it too. I'm like, look, here's my thing, here's how I feel, this is the grade I give this thing, because I don't do a 10-point scale, I do A to F basically. I've never given anything a 0, I've never given anything a 1, never. But it is that thing of, okay, how do I find the balance between what I think and what the people who are going to be buying this game for the reason it was made? Because, I might buy Ghost of Tsushima, but it doesn't speak to me. It's not really my thing.
Yeah.
But someone else may love it, may love that Assassin's Creed style, whatever, and you got to think of it in terms of that. Like, okay, well, if someone's looking for X, Y, and Z, are they going to find it here? And, finding a way to like grade it based off that, I feel like is a really interesting thing to be able to do. But I was just curious if you had ever done that yourself. But it sounds like you just kind of stick to your gut and like, this is what I think, man. If you like it, whatever. If not, I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yep, pretty much.
Since we only have a few minutes here left, and I want to thank you so much for giving your time. If I don't know about you, I've had a great time. I hope we can
it's been awesome,
again
bro.
Another time. Really quickly, give us what your impressions are of the Xbox Series X. Is this groundbreaking, like Xbox 360 style, and hype? I mean, are we going to get stuff like that? What do you think?
Yeah. All right. Here's the thing, right? And this is a little bit about both consoles, right? At the moment, they're essentially just a 0.5 version of the previous one, right? That's the way I see it. Like Xbox Series X is kind of like Xbox One XX, it's just faster. I mean, it does a lot of dope things. Don't get me wrong. It has quick resume and all that other stuff, but we're not really going to see the graphical power of both systems, or at least the potential realized until 2 or 3 years from now, because a lot of these games, especially the games I played, they're all just last gen games, just souped up,
Right.
It's just how it is. But no, the Xbox Series X itself, you guys could actually check out my full breakdown of it over on Throwdown Show over on YouTube, right? So I thought, like, okay, as a device itself, like a monolith, I thought it was good. I like my game consoles to be simple, right? And I'm saying this as a PlayStation guy. I don't like that PlayStation 5 design. It's too much, like these weird curves and stuff. Like, bro, just give me a box, So the design of it is good. I like the heat sink all the way up top. It does not overheat, unlike some other reports. It's fine. I like how you could just stick the expandable memory in the back, very easy. PlayStation, you got to do all this craziness with it. The controller is really good. I like it. It's a little bit lighter than the Xbox. Than this one. Hold on, let's do this. I have it right here. Is lighter than the normal Xbox controller. But it has like a matte finish on the back, which is really nice. I love the D-pad in it. It's because the Xbox D-pads have never been really a thing of me. Like the 360 D-pad was terrible. I'm like, yes. I can't even. I'm a big fighting game fan. I'm like, I can't even do Hadoukens on this thing,
right.
But they improved it with the Xbox One controller. The D-pad was good. Xbox Series X controller, fantastic. Has a little bit. It kind of feels like the Elite one. The D-pad, that's really good. But the thing that impressed me the most, and this is next gen. This is a next gen thing. Quick resume and load times are ridiculous, man. Like if you saw the video, Deaney and I were switching back between games like nothing. Like you can't do that with the current gen right now. So that's really cool to see. But I want to see how that's going to work with, next gen games that are like fully taxing the system, yes. But that's a really good thing. Sony, if you saw the Sony presentation, PS5 has quick resume, but they don't call it that. They haven't called it anything, but if you saw it working, it's like, okay, so that system does it too. They're just not being upfront about it.
Right.
But yeah, the quick resume, that's probably the big thing for me. I'm like, this is cool. Even though I only play maybe one game at a time, that's just the way I am. It's cool. Like, let's just say, you're living with a family or whatever, you're playing your game, your girlfriend comes in, she wants to play some, just let her play her game, do her thing. She goes to sleep. You come back, you pick up exactly where you left off. Or you're playing a single player game and your boys hit you up like, yo, we're playing Call of Duty. Let's go. Put your game on pause. Go play Call of Duty. Come back, pick up exactly where you left off. You don't have to go through load screens or any of that stuff. And what's cool about Xbox, you could literally turn off the system completely, unplug it, plug it back in, pick up where you left off. So that is really cool. But again, I want to see some next gen games really playing out, because again, I did get to play Yakuza. I got to play Dirt, right? But those are still kind of last gen games as well.
Launch titles at best. You're not going to know what is capable. I mean, give me Everwild and Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout at the same time and see if it can switches back, back and forth as fast, stuff like that. But so you're confirming everything that I've thought literally about next gen, which is literally whatever you have, it's V2. It's faster load times, slightly better graphics, slightly better stuff, yada, yada, yada. Is that the basic general gist of what you got in your experience with Xbox Series X?
Yeah, pretty much. Games run faster. They have better frame rates, resolution. But right now, we're not really seeing titles that really take advantage of the hardware,
Yeah. That makes sense. Well said. And that's, that's for you. Want to be critic listeners, working class fellow workers, you know what I mean? What you got is fine right now. If you can't afford the new system, it's not PS3 to PS4. It's not the same thing. It is literally everything that you can play on your PS4 is going to be good enough for a while. You know what I mean? You don't have to have these next gen systems. You can go a while before getting them. So
yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I got myself a PS5 pre-order, right? But the main reason for that is because that's work. It's like that's my work. If I was just a regular gamer, I wouldn't bother. I'm being honest, I wouldn't bother. I would just stick with what I got right now. Because even the biggest game on PlayStation is Miles Morales Spider-Man. Play that on PS4. Right. You're not missing anything.
Yeah, and I'm not. It's not for work for me, and I'm like, well, I want to be able to talk about it on the podcast, so that's why I'm buying it. I bought the digital edition, but the same thing. I am literally buying the PS4 versions of the games for as long as possible, because it's just like, how much of a fidelity difference is it going to make? Like, I can save $10 on the next game and still have the same thing, and it's going to go on sale later. Like, if I want to buy the PS5 versions, I guess I can and get another set of trophies later, but I don't know. This just confirms everything we've been saying on the show, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't need the new console, if you don't have a show like this, if you don't whatever, just wait. It's not worth it yet. Just wait, and you have it from not a wannabe, a fellow podcaster and just gaming enthusiast and a professional. Tony Polanco has given his true opinion on next gen because he's had hands-on with Xbox Series X. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know Tony has to go. He's a very important man. He has the stream on Throwdown right now. I want to thank you for your time, Tony. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to, keep as close to the time barrier as possible, the time agreement as possible. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Romudeth. That's ROMUDETH. And again, you check out the bio there, and I have links to all the places you can find me at: PC Mag, Laptop Mag, Tom's Guide, and of course Throwdown Show. Throwdown, we do 2 episodes of the core podcast week, Thursdays and Sunday nights at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. There's Thursday show is where we cover gaming news, pretty much like this show. We cover the week's gaming news. The Sunday show, that's the questions podcast where fans ask us questions. Think about it, bro. We've had 300 of those episodes. They never run out of questions. Right. And obviously on Twitter, I'm going to be giving my takes and all that. And join me if you don't want to talk. If you come at me like respectfully and cool, like Gabe, I'll talk to you. I'll maybe follow you. But if you talk trash, I'm not bothering.
He's not messing. He's a busy man. He just does his thing.
That's it. That is what it's all about. And I do want to just quickly say this one thing, and then I'll get out of your hair. Here's the thing about a lot of game, and I'm just being real, and a lot of gaming journalists I know, right? They are journalists first, gamers second, right? I'm not like that. I'm a gamer that just so happens to be very good at journalism, right? So that's why I'm very passionate about this stuff. Even though I have become a little bit jaded because it's just a job, I still come at things from a gamer standpoint. That's why I even said, I'm buying a PS5 and I'm telling you guys don't buy it, because if I was just a regular guy, because I'm still that guy at heart, and I try my hardest not to. I don't, the blue check mark, who gives a crap about that? Right. I try to not forget where I came from. You know, like I said, Gabe, I was where you were not too long ago. It's like I'm not never gonna forget that. And then when you get to where I am, never forget that either. You know what I'm saying? And just to you, man, keep doing your thing, man. Like you're gonna have those days that are dark or whatever that you're gonna question, like, why am I doing this? Keep at it. It's gonna pay off, man. You know, either like monetarily or just like whatever. It's gonna work out for you. You just gotta just keep at it. Grinding and persistence is the most important thing, you know. So shout out to you guys, and shout out, and you know, anybody listening to this podcast right now that wants to do what we're doing, you could do it. We're just regular guys. There's nothing special about us, you know. There's absolutely nothing special about us. We just kept at it, you know. So if you're passionate about it and you know, make whatever sacrifices you need to within reason, obviously,
right,
keep at it, and you could do something in gaming. There's so many opportunities here: podcasting, streaming, writing, whatever. You know, there's a lot of opportunities here, and the door is wide open. So make of it what you will.
Well said, Tony. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, and man, I'm so thankful you're on the podcast. This is awesome. And you know, I hope anyone listening to this, I hope you can be the same way that Tony is, because that's how I am. I'm a gamer first, and you know, I don't write anything anymore. I'm a gamer first. I'm a content creator second. You know what I mean? And it's all based around that stuff. So if you're willing to put in the work, at some point in time, your levels of success, as I talked about in the beginning of the show, you're going to level up as time goes on. Just keep putting in the work. You got this. And it's nice to hear that reaffirmed by a professional such as yourself, Tony. And again, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you got to go, but thank you for telling us your story, telling us about all this stuff, giving your opinions on the news and all this. It was just a great show overall. I'm really, really happy. So, thank you to the listeners as well for checking out the podcast. We really appreciate it. Make sure you go check out wannabecritic.com if you want to see all the different stuff we do. Check out Raise Energy and popcultusa.com, as I said before. And thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic. Tony, say goodbye.
All right, people. You all take care of yourselves, man. Peace out.